To understand why their hearts raced at a frequency they couldn't hear, we need to go below hearing itself. What infrasound does to a body. To understand the feeling of a truck idling inside your chest, start with a definition that doesn't comfort anyone. Infrasound is sound below 20 hertz. You don't so much hear it as feel it. Its wavelengths are long, meters long, so it wraps around you, slips through walls, and couples into the things you live in. The ear isn't the only sensor. Your whole body is. Here's what that means in human terms. At very low frequencies, the chest wall and abdominal cavity can resonate a little, like a slow pump handle. You feel a pressure that doesn't match what your ears report. The vestibular system, the balance organs in your inner ear, also respond to low-frequency motion and pressure shifts. When they're nudged without a matching visual cue, the brain reads conflict, nausea, dizziness, a vague sense that the room is wrong. Meanwhile, your autonomic nervous system, the part that handles heart rate and sweat, watches for patterns tied to threat. It doesn't ask whether a tone is audible. It asks whether the pattern looks like turbulence, thunder, or a big body moving nearby. In lab exposures, researchers have seen small but clear physiological nudges at low levels in some people. Heart rate variability shifts, tiny rises in skin conductance, a bump in anxiety scores. We're not talking concert bass that rattles pictures. We're talking a whisper of pressure near the edge of hearing, or just below it, especially around a band that keeps showing up in human stories, 17 to 19 hertz. That aligns with controlled infrasound studies where hidden low components increase reported tension in a subset of participants, while objective markers nudged in the same direction. That band has a specific anchor. Measurements place the ocular or eyeball resonance near 18.98 hertz. Your eyes are fluid-filled spheres with elastic walls. At that frequency, they can micro-oscillate. So slightly you don't notice the movement, but enough to tickle the retina mechanically. People describe faint gray shadows or a sense of motion at the edge of vision. Pair that with a low, steady vibration you barely register, and your threat circuits start paying attention. You don't need ghosts when your hardware is producing its own shadows. This is a clean research bridge that turns haunted rooms into testable biology. Now take that back to the kitchen at 2 a.m. The house air is still outside noise that usually masks low frequencies has dropped. If there's a faint tone in the room, generated far away and amplified by the geometry of the space, you might not hear it as a note, but your chest feels a band of pressure. Your vestibular system sees a slow sway with no visual partner. Your eyes might jitter at their resonant rate. The autonomic system, trained by a lifetime of patterns, lifts heart rate and slicks your palms. This is how a sound meter can say, "nothing unusual," while your body insists something's wrong. It matters that standard sound meters often ignore this band. Many measurements use A-weighting, which mimics the ear sensitivity and rolls off the low end. Infrasound needs Z-weighting or dedicated microbarometers to show up. And even then, the culprit might not be a pure air pressure wave at your ear. Low-frequency energy couples into structures, floors, walls, ductwork. Your bed frame can become part of the instrument. Put your head on that instrument and you've made a sensor with your skull. Not everyone reacts the same way. In the groups who do, there's a familiar profile. People with motion sickness, vestibular migraine, or disorders, where the balance system argues with the eyes and ears. Their threshold for noticing low-frequency conflict is lower. Think of them as better detectors with a nervous system tuned for safety. That's not a flaw, it's a sensitivity. A small study here, a field test there, expose volunteers to barely audible tones just under 20 hertz and ask them how they feel. Some shrug. A fraction report unease, a weight on the chest, a need to step away. In that slice, even when loudness ratings hover near zero, the body reacts. Around 17 to 19 hertz, those reactions nudge higher for some. It lines up with what Michael, Denise, and Sam found in their makeshift tests at home. There's also a timing piece. Low-frequency sources in nature, storms, distant surf, wax and wane with weather and season. Industrial sources shift with load and night cycles. In the quiet hours, when masking noise fades, slow tones stand naked. That's when room physics steps in. Long wavelengths set up standing waves between parallel walls. Corners become pressure traps. Add a small opening to a large volume, a vent, a chimney, and you've built a Helmholtz resonator, a giant bottle that prefers one low note. If the preferred note sits near that haunted band, you've created a personal chapel for the body to pray to a frequency it can't hear. If you're looking for a single villain, this is frustrating. The reality is layered. A small external signal, a room that magnifies it in certain spots, a body whose sensors are designed to notice motion and pressure changes even when ears do not. Add a brain that's always predicting what should happen next, and you have a recipe for salience. The perception feels inescapable because the detectors aren't just ears, they're everywhere. So when the doctor says hearing is normal and the meter says nothing's wrong, both can be technically true. It's the wrong test for the right complaint. The better frame is this. Some bodies pick up low-frequency cues and translate them into stress. The sound is weak, the response is strong, and for about 2% of people, that translation is loud enough to rewrite a life. If that's the hardware, the next question is the firmware. Why do some brains turn a faint vibration into a signal that won't let go? The 2%. Biological hardware conflict. Here's the pivot. If the body is the sensor, why do only some bodies light up? Start with the mechanics. Ears aren't identical parts off a line. Small differences, ear canal length, the stiffness of the eardrum and middle ear bones, the way sinuses and nasopharynx connect, change how low frequencies pass through or get reflected. A slightly longer canal shifts resonances. A more compliant middle ear moves a little more at the bottom end. None of this makes a person better or worse at hearing. It just tunes the whole head like a slightly different instrument. Then there's the balance system. People who get carsick on winding roads, who feel wrung out after a day under fluorescent lights, who've been told they have vestibular migraine or PPPD, persistent postural perceptual dizziness, show up in hum forums a lot. Their vestibular system is hyper-attentive. Give that system a slow sway without a matching visual cue, and it flags it faster. That's useful in a storm at sea. At 2 a.m., in a quiet bedroom with a barely there tone, it turns vigilance into discomfort. But the hardware is only half the conflict. The firmware matters, the way the brain decides what to attend to. Brains don't wait for perfect signals, they predict. When a low-frequency pattern is ambiguous, too weak to be a clear tone, too steady to be random, the auditory system throws a soft alert. The limbic system, which handles threat and emotion, checks in. If you've slept badly for 3 nights and you're worried the hum will return, anxiety turns the gain up. That extra gain makes the pattern stand out more. The loop closes. Perception fuels anxiety. Anxiety amplifies perception. It's the auditory-limbic feedback loop. You're not imagining the sensation, you're reinforcing its salience. Get this, 2 people in the same room can have different loops. A coworker told us about a factory tour. 6 of them stood near a bank of industrial fans. They all had to shout to talk, but only 2 felt a band of pressure across the chest and a sudden urge to step back. Later, those 2 would both say they also get carsick easily. The others shrugged and joked about the noise. Same stimulus, different nervous systems, different stories. Genes and hormones nudge the sliders too. Migraine runs in families, and a subset of migraine genes is tied to sensory thresholds. Women in midlife show up in hum narratives more than chance would predict, which might reflect hormone-linked shifts in vestibular sensitivity and sleep architecture. None of this makes the experience all in your head. It situates it in a brain-body system that's designed to prioritize survival and sometimes over-indexes. Think about the eyes for a second. In the last chapter, we talked about ocular resonance near 18/98 Hz. In a sensitive person, a room that emphasizes that band might create tiny visual quivers and a slow body pressure cue at once. The predictive brain looks for a cause and doesn't find one. That mismatch is uncomfortable. If you've already labeled the mismatch the hum that ruins my sleep, your limbic system tags it as important before you're even fully aware it's back. The loop bites faster. Now add context. You've read forum threads, you've tracked patterns, you've moved furniture, and noticed a small improvement. You're trying to control something you can't see, and control is a deeply human need. The moment a faint vibration appears, your brain pulls last week's file and says, "Here we go." That expectation shifts thresholds. It doesn't create the stimulus, but it lowers the bar for detecting it. Predictive coding is efficient most days. Here, it backfires. There's a social layer too. Partners who don't feel it get tired of rearranged bedrooms and late-night walks. Bosses don't accept "my house is humming" as a reason for foggy mornings. Doctors, trained to think in decibels and audiograms, say hearing is normal. All true, and it leaves sufferers isolated. Isolation itself cranks the limbic gain. You can watch someone's world shrink to the shape of their bedroom because that's where the battle is. This is why the 2% figure matters. In Taos, a survey suggested roughly that slice could hear a local hum. It isn't a supernatural club. It's a distribution tale. People whose anatomy, vestibular sensitivity, and predictive brain settings line up. They are not making it up. They're detecting more. And under certain conditions, that detection spirals into distress. What do you do with a loop? You break it in more than one place. Adjust the room so it's less cooperative. Adjust routines so sleep pressure outweighs late-night vigilance. Adjust the brain's expectations so the pattern loses threat value. We'll get there. First, we need a better map of the external signal itself. If bodies can sense it, where is it coming from? And how does it travel across continents and through walls? Natural engines, Earth's low-frequency choir. While Michael, Denise, and Sam were tearing apart bedrooms, the planet was singing under them. Not loudly, not like thunder, more like breath. The ocean was the biggest instrument. Far offshore, winter seas sent storm trains across the Atlantic and Pacific. Where counter-rolling wave groups met, they beat together and pushed on the air above them, making microbaromes, ultra-low pressure pulses around 1/10 to half a hertz. Too slow to hear, but strong enough to travel thousands of kilometers. Some of that energy pressed the seafloor and shook the crust. The Earth answered with microsysms, the constant murmur that seismologists read like weather. On the longest timescales, the planet carries a true hum, periods of 30 seconds to minutes, excited by ocean gravity waves. You'll never notice that directly. But between the seafloor, the air, and whatever building you live in, there are handshakes. Energy shifts bands as it crosses interfaces. A storm deepens over the North Atlantic. Long-period swell grows, microbaromes bloom, and downstream you find a tone inside a room that wasn't there in summer. Volcanoes add their own voices when they're active. Even without exploding, vents breathe. Gas jets and magma motion rumble below 20 hertz and can radiate across hundreds of kilometers, especially when the atmosphere cooperates. Most nights you won't hear Etna from Bristol, but if a volcano is restless, infrasound arrays light up, and somewhere, some room with the right dimensions hums a little stronger. Lightning and jet streams sculpt the background too. Thunder carries a long tail of low-frequency energy, fast-moving air layers over slow ones, and they trade momentum through waves you can't see, but can sometimes feel as pressure drift. Those pressure waves, like the ocean's microbaromes, don't stop at your door. They press on roofs and siding, they push through vents. The house doesn't care whether the source is salt water or sky. It responds as a resonator all the same. Now remember the diaries. Worse at night, worse in winter, patterns that seem to snap on at fixed hours. Nature has clocks. Ocean storms in the northern hemisphere peak in winter. Microbarome source maps glow brightest in the North Atlantic and North Pacific then. Night brings calmer local winds and less turbulent air near the ground, which can let infrasonic waves bend and travel farther with less scattering. Indoors, the drop in masking noise makes steady low patterns stand out. A very small external driver becomes a felt presence, precisely when you're trying to sleep. In some regions, people have noticed their hum season. Coastal communities talk about autumn nights when the swell rises and the air feels heavy. Inland, when big storm systems roll through, a few hearers brace. This isn't consistent everywhere. Local geography matters. Ridges, valleys, and urban canyons bend slow waves like lenses. A cul-de-sac aligned with prevailing winds and open to the distant sea might be a better collector than the street behind it. Here's where the room starts to matter again. Long wavelengths don't care about furniture. They fit across whole rooms. If your bedroom's longest dimension supports a standing wave at a low harmonic that lines up with the incoming energy, pressure will pile up at the walls and corners. Move your head half a meter and the sensation changes. Add a vent or chimney, a small opening to a larger volume, and you've built a Helmholtz resonator. Blow across a bottle and you hear a note. Push a slow pressure rhythm across a vent and the house favors one low band. Basements are notorious for this because they're boxy, stiff, and connected to the outside through just a few openings. A microbarometer that would have passed through as a shrug finds a cavity that answers back. Seismic. Coupling adds another path. Microseisms shake foundations by tiny amounts. You won't notice the ground itself, but the energy can climb the structure. Floors and walls flex a hair, and that motion couples into the air inside. Even if the air pressure signal from the sky is weak, the building can create one of its own from the ground. Two faint drivers, airborne and structure-borne, stack just enough to cross a sensitive person's threshold. Of course, when you're awake at 3:07 a.m., you're not thinking about ocean wave interactions and atmospheric ducting. You're thinking about the corner where your chest tightens. But zoomed out, the timing matches the planet's low-end schedule. This explains why Taos has a season, why Bristol's letters spiked in certain months, why Sam's calendar marks cluster. Nature hums constantly, yet it modulates with weather, swell, and wind. The house is a filter, not a shield. None of this means every case is natural. It means that even before we layer on machines, the baseline is active. The sea, the sky, and the crust run a choir below hearing, and a small group of bodies are tuned close enough to catch the beat when rooms lend them a hand. When people say it's worse inside, they're describing room physics responding to faraway weather. When they say it starts after midnight, they're describing propagation and masking, not madness. And yet, once you hear the earth, you start noticing a second voice. Over the last century, we've added new bass instruments, fans, grids, pumps, that play on top of the old song. The natural choir sets the stage.
Industrial
Modern
bass
life
lines,
brings the melody
infrastructure
you can't see. While nature keeps a steady floor, industry lays a grid on top of it. You don't see it, but once you know where to listen, it's everywhere. Transformers, pumps, giant fans, cooling towers, data centers breathing all night. The sound isn't just in the air, it rides steel, soil, and concrete, slips through foundations, then blooms inside rooms that like those notes. Start with the power grid. Every city hums at 50 or 60 hertz, depending on where you live. That's above classic infrasound, but real equipment doesn't sing a single clean note. Transformers produce subharmonics and modulation products, sidebands that dip below 20 hertz, especially when the load changes. At night, when demand shifts and control systems adjust, those low components wobble. If you're near a substation or a big feeder line, the walls don't just hear that, they carry it. Then there are the lungs of buildings, large fans and compressors. Hospitals, malls, high-rises, and server farms push astonishing volumes of air and water. Big axial fans with long blades can produce powerful tonals under 20 hertz, especially when blade pass frequencies and structural resonances dance together. The fans are often mounted on rooftops or in mechanical rooms bolted to the frame. That energy doesn't stay politely in the duct. It migrates into floors and joists, then into rooms that were never designed to ignore a slow throb. Data centers, new to many neighborhoods, stack this effect. Racks of servers make heat. Heat demands cooling. Cooling means banks of fans and chillers that never sleep. The units modulate with load, so the low end breathes. People who live a block away don't hear whirring. They feel a room press and release in a way you can't point at. Inspector shows up at noon, listens for a minute, declares it fine. At 2 a.m., the load curve slides and the baseline returns. Pipelines too. High-pressure gas lines and long water mains use pumps and regulators that create pulsations. The ground itself becomes a waveguide. You don't need to live next to a pumping station to get a taste. The energy can couple into building foundations miles away. In winter, when soil is stiffer and the air's density shifts, the coupling changes. People swear the hum moved to their street. In some sense, it did, through the ground. Wind turbines get argued about a lot. What's clear is that large turbines produce a complex low-frequency signature, including infrasound, and that amplitude modulation, the thump-thump as blades pass the tower, can irritate even at modest sound pressure levels. Some residents near wind farms report sleep disruption that correlates with certain wind conditions and turbine orientations. Not everyone feels it. Some do, and they describe the same chest pressure and unease that show up in city cases. Here's the story that took the hum from rumor to hardware. Windsor, Ontario. Around 2011, residents across the river from Detroit began reporting a heavy, intermittent rumble. Windows rattled, people lost sleep. The press called it the Windsor Hum. Researchers deployed sensors and found a low-frequency signature that came and went, bending with wind and temperature layers over the river. The lines of evidence pointed across the water to Zug Island, an industrial site with U.S. steel operations. Blast furnaces and steelmaking are not quiet arts. They move huge volumes of air and material, and periodic processes can generate strong, low-frequency components. The team couldn't plant instruments on the island itself, but the correlation was strong enough that when operations paused, the hum eased. When they resumed, it returned. 2 cities, 1 baseline, traded across a border. That's a rare case where public data, resident logs, and industrial cycles lined up without relying on folklore. Stories like that explain why some nights are worse than others. Industrial systems follow diurnal cycles. At night, there's less traffic and less general noise, so masking falls away. Grid loads shift as air conditioners cycle down and heating systems kick in. Maintenance routines run at off-peak hours. A neighbor's building chillers enter a different control mode. A data center spins up redundancy for a scheduled test. The baseline lifts just enough to cross a sensitive threshold, and in your bedroom, the walls take that faint push and make a standing wave out of it. Officials often show up with A-weighted meters, the same curve used to protect hearing in workplaces. It's great for mid-range noise that damages ears. It rolls off the lows that bother bodies. So a printout says, within limits, and the resident who hasn't slept in a week feels dismissed. That gap in measurement is a character in almost every hum saga. If the energy is mostly structure-borne, vibration riding beams and slabs, an air microphone underreads it anyway. Put an accelerometer on the floor, and a different picture appears. Curiosity hook. What if the quietest room on a report is the loudest room to your nervous system? Think back to Denise on the bedroom carpet. She didn't need a spectrogram to find the hot spot. Her body did it. Walk, pause, feel the pressure notch change. That's a building telling you it's been drafted into an orchestra it didn't audition for. It's why moving a bed off a floor joist or decoupling it with elastomer pads can buy back a few hours of sleep. It's why a vent cap can shift a room's favorite note. Quick test to hook. Try a temporary flue cover for 1 night and diary the wake time. Does your 307 move? Industrial baselines don't have to be loud in an absolute sense to be invasive in a specific place. They have to be steady, they have to be low, and they have to meet a room that agrees. When that happens, the sound isn't out there anymore. It's under you, around you, and if you're in the 2%, inside you, measuring a sound nobody hears. Michael kept a printout from the city inspector. Compliant. A weighted leak within limits. He stared at the curve on the back that dipped hard below 20 hertz, the part his body kept complaining about. Denise had the same graph from Bristol, different logo, same dismissal. If your tool ignores the thing that hurts you, the result looks clean.